My friend, have you ever stopped to think that faith is capable of transforming reality? It is as if we had a magic key, a powerful tool that can open doors that previously seemed locked forever. Faith, this invisible but very real force, has the power to change not only external circumstances, but mainly the interior of each one of us. When we place our trust in God, truly believing that He is in control and that everything can be possible through Him, our outlook on life changes completely. The challenges that previously seemed insurmountable become opportunities to see the hand of God acting and transforming our reality. Faith teaches us to look beyond what our eyes can see, to trust even when everything seems to be against us. And it is in this moment of trust, of total surrender to God, that transformation happens. Faith leads us to act, to take that step of faith, even if we do not know exactly how everything will work out. And when we act by faith, we see God move and do things we could never have imagined. It is as if each step of faith were a seed planted, which with time and trust in God will germinate and bear wonderful fruit. Faith is the basis for all transformation. It is the beginning of a journey where God leads us to incredible places and makes us grow in ways we never imagined. And you, my friend, are you ready to let faith transform your life? Let us explore together, step by step, how faith can be cultivated and how it can become a powerful force in your life. But first, let us talk about another fundamental aspect that is closely linked to faith and that also has the power to transform: prayer. My friend, have you ever sat down and thought about the true meaning of prayer? Prayer is often seen as just a time to ask God for things, but it is much more than that. Prayer is a direct connection with the Creator of the universe, an intimate encounter where we can speak, but also hear God's voice. It is like a bridge that takes us to Him, allowing us to share our longings, our pains, our dreams, and at the same time, opening ourselves to receive God's direction, advice, and love. Prayer is an act of faith, because when we kneel to pray, we are confessing that we need God, that we recognize His sovereignty, and that we trust that He will act. It is in this moment of communion that faith is strengthened and manifested. Faith in prayer makes us believe that God hears and that He has the power to respond. Even when we do not understand the answer, even when it seems that nothing is happening, faith keeps us firm, knowing that God is in control and that He always acts at the perfect time. Prayer is an act of dependence, of recognizing that we cannot do everything on our own and that we need God's presence and power in our lives. And when we pray with faith, something incredible happens. God moves. He answers our prayers according to His will and takes us to places we could never reach on our own. Prayer is an act of love, of communion with God, and it is through prayer that our faith becomes stronger and more alive. And you, my friend, have you cultivated a life of prayer? Have you allowed your faith to manifest itself through prayer? Remember, prayer is an act of love and dependence, and faith is the catalyst that activates God's power in response to our prayers. Now let's talk about how faith can act as a bridge between the impossible and the possible, transforming obstacles into opportunities and trials into testimonies of God's grace and power. Friend, have you ever faced a situation that seemed completely impossible to solve? Life is full of challenges that sometimes make us think that certain things are unattainable. But that's where faith comes in, like a powerful bridge that allows us to see beyond our human limitations. Faith teaches us that with God, all things are possible. It's as if it gives us a new vision, a heavenly perspective that allows us to see difficult situations with eyes of hope and confidence. When we face obstacles, faith reminds us that God is with us, that He has a greater plan, and that even when we don't understand, we can trust Him. Faith makes the impossible possible, because it connects us with divine power that is beyond our comprehension. Every challenge we face becomes an opportunity to grow in faith and to see God act in incredible ways. It's as if each obstacle is a trial that God uses to strengthen us and teach us to depend more on Him. And when we go through these trials, our faith becomes deeper and our trust in God solidifies. Faith teaches us not to give up, to persist even when everything seems to be against us. And it is in this process of faith and persistence that we see God do wonderful things in our lives. And you, my friend, have you allowed faith to be this bridge in your life? Have you trusted in God even when circumstances seem impossible? Remember, faith is the key that opens the doors of the impossible and leads us to experience the glory of God. Now let's talk about how we can cultivate this powerful faith in our lives so that it becomes a constant and transforming force. Friend, have you ever thought about how faith develops and becomes stronger? Faith is not something that just appears out of nowhere. It needs to be cultivated, nurtured, and cared for. It is like a plant that with time and dedication grows and becomes stronger. To cultivate faith, we need personal experiences with God, where He reveals Himself to us in unique and powerful ways. We need to study the Scriptures, immersing ourselves in God's words and seeking to understand His will and plan for our lives. And we also need fellowship with other believers, those who share the same faith and who can encourage and strengthen us on our spiritual journey. Faith requires daily practice and perseverance, because it is not something that is acquired once and for all. It is an ongoing process of growth and learning. Each time we face challenges and trust in God, our faith grows stronger. Each time we pray and see God answer, our faith deepens. And each time we share our testimonies and experiences with others, our faith multiplies. Cultivating faith is a daily commitment, a decision to trust God and allow Him to work in our lives. And you, my friend, have you dedicated yourself to cultivating your faith? Have you sought personal experiences with God, studied the Scriptures, and gotten involved with other believers? Remember, faith is a muscle that needs to be exercised constantly, and the more we cultivate it, the stronger it becomes. Now let's talk about the importance of humility in our journey of faith and how it can open the doors to divine miracles. Have you ever stopped to think about the importance of humility in our journey of faith? Humility is a virtue that often goes unnoticed, but it is essential for a life of true faith. When we approach God with a humble heart, we recognize our dependence on Him and our own frailty. It is in this moment of humility that God draws near to us and grants us His grace and power. The Bible tells us that God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. James 4:6. This means that when we humble ourselves before God, He grants us favors and blessings that we do not deserve. Humility is the basis for an effective prayer life, because it is through humility that we can truly trust God and depend on Him. When we pray with a humble heart, we recognize that we need God's help and that He is the only one who can help us. And it is in this moment of humility that God moves and answers our prayers. Humility also teaches us to recognize our mistakes and to ask God for forgiveness. It is an act of honesty and integrity, where we confess our weaknesses and seek God's mercy. And when we humble ourselves before God, He lifts us up and strengthens us, giving us the ability to overcome our challenges and live a life of true faith. Humility is a path to intimacy with God, where we can experience His presence and His goodness in a profound and transformative way. And you, my friend, have you cultivated humility in your life of faith? Have you approached God with a humble and dependent heart? Remember, humility is the gateway to God's blessing and a life of true faith. Now, let's talk about the importance of intercession and how our faith can have a significant impact on the lives of others. Have you ever thought about the power of intercession? Intercession is an act of love and compassion, where we pray for those who cannot pray for themselves or who need our help. When we intercede for someone, we are exercising our faith on behalf of the one in need, asking God to intervene and bring healing, deliverance, and blessings. Intercession is a living testimony of God's love because through our prayers, He can touch the lives of others in incredible ways. The Bible teaches us that we should pray for one another, bearing one another's burdens and completing in us the unity of the Spirit, Galatians 6:2, Ephesians 4:3. When we intercede, we are not only praying for ourselves, but we are extending God's hand to those who need His help. Intercession is an act of faith because it requires that we trust God and believe that He can act on behalf of the one we are interceding for. It is an act of love, as we are willing to sacrifice ourselves and dedicate our time and energy to pray for someone in need. And when we see God answer our prayers of intercession, it is a powerful confirmation of God's love and power. Intercession also teaches us the importance of communion and solidarity, as we are united in prayer for a greater cause. And you, my friend, have you dedicated yourself to interceding for others? Have you used your faith to pray for those in need and to extend God's hand to them? Remember, intercession is an act of love and a powerful testimony of God's power. Now let's talk about the complete transformation that faith can bring, not only in our spiritual life, but in every aspect of our existence. Friend, have you ever wondered how faith can transform not only our spiritual life, but also every aspect of our existence? Faith is a powerful force that, when truly lived, brings about complete transformation. It is like a wave that begins in the heart and spreads to every corner of our lives, touching our relationships, our goals, our struggles, and even our dreams. When we place our trust in God and live by faith, He begins to act in every area of our lives, bringing healing, deliverance, and peace. Complete transformation through faith is not something that happens all at once, but is an ongoing process of growth and learning. It is as if God were an artist, carefully shaping every detail of our lives, transforming our hearts and minds so that they are more like Him. Faith teaches us to see beyond our circumstances and to trust in God, even when everything seems to be against us. It is an act of love and dependence where we recognize that God is in control and that He has a greater plan for our lives. And when we live by faith, our lives become living testimony to the power of God, inspiring others to also trust in Him and experience the complete transformation He offers. Faith is the key that opens the doors to a full and transformed life, where God can act and accomplish incredible things. And you, my friend, have you allowed faith to bring about a complete transformation in your life? Have you trusted God to guide every aspect of your existence? Remember, faith is an invitation to a life of fullness and transformation, where God can do things beyond anything we can ask or imagine. Now, let's talk about the importance of persistence in faith and how it can help us overcome life's challenges. Friend, have you ever faced a challenge so overwhelming that it seemed impossible to overcome? Life is full of obstacles that sometimes make us think we should give up. But that's where persistence in faith becomes essential. True faith is not just a moment of trust, but a journey of perseverance, where we continue to trust God even when circumstances seem unfavorable. The Bible teaches us to persist in prayer and trust in God, because He is faithful and always fulfills His promises, Romans 12:12. Persistence in faith reminds us that God is with us, even when we don't see immediate results. It is an act of trust, where we continue to pray, wait, and believe that God will act in His perfect timing. Persistence in faith also teaches us to value the journey and trust in God's process. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to grow in faith and to see God act in incredible ways. When we persist in faith, we are not just waiting for a solution, but we are actively participating in God's work in our lives. And when God answers, our faith is strengthened and our trust in Him is solidified. Persistence in faith is a powerful testimony of God's love and faithfulness, showing that we can trust Him even when everything seems to be against us. And you, my friend, have you persisted in faith even when faced with challenges? Have you continued to trust God and pray even when you don't see immediate results? Remember, persistence in faith is the key to seeing God act and to fully experiencing His blessings. Now, let's talk about the importance of vision in our journey of faith and how it can help us see beyond our current circumstances. Friend, have you ever imagined looking beyond your current circumstances and seeing the glory of God? Faith gives us a heavenly vision, a perspective that transcends what our eyes can see. It is as if faith places us in a higher place where we can see beyond the difficulties and human limitations. The vision that faith gives us is an ability to see the divine potential in every situation, even when everything seems hopeless. The Bible teaches us that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. This means that through faith we can have an inner certainty that God is in control and that He has a greater plan for our lives. The vision of faith allows us to see difficult situations as opportunities for God to manifest Himself and for His glory to be revealed. When we have a spiritual vision, we do not allow ourselves to be carried away by circumstances alone, but we trust in God's promise and His ability to transform everything for the good of those who love Him. Romans 8:28. The vision of faith also helps us maintain hope even when everything seems to be against us. It is like a light that shines in the midst of darkness, showing us that there is a way out, and that God is with us. And when we share this vision with others, we can inspire them to also trust in God and see beyond their own circumstances. The vision of faith is a spiritual treasure that enables us to live a life of trust and expectation, where each day is an opportunity to see God act and experience His presence in a powerful way. And you, my friend, have you cultivated a spiritual vision in your life of faith? Have you learned to see beyond your circumstances and trust in God's promise? Remember, the vision of faith is the key to seeing God's glory in the midst of difficulties and to living a life full of hope and trust. Now, let's talk about the importance of testimony and how it can impact the lives of others and multiply faith. Friend, have you ever thought about the power of a true testimony? Testimony is one of the most powerful ways God uses to multiply faith and impact the lives of others. When we share our experiences with God, our victories, and even our struggles, we are showing others that God is real, that He is active, and that He can do incredible things in anyone's life. Testimony is an act of gratitude and worship, where we acknowledge God's blessings and share them with others so that they too can experience God's love and power. The Bible is full of powerful testimonies, such as the woman who touched the hem of Jesus' cloak and was healed, Matthew 9:20-22. Or the centurion who saw his servant being healed from a distance, Matthew 8:5-13. These testimonies not only inspire, but they also confirm God's presence and power. When we share our testimonies, we are being used by God to touch the lives of others, to encourage them and to show them that they too can experience the same transformation and blessings that we have. Testimony is a powerful form of evangelism, where we do not need complicated words or sophisticated arguments, but simply to share the truth of our experiences with God. And you, my friend, have you shared your testimony with others? Have you used your experiences with God to inspire and encourage others to also trust in Him? Remember, each testimony is a spiritual treasure that can impact the lives of others and multiply faith. Now let's talk about how faith can turn challenges into victories and how we can apply these lessons in our daily lives. Have you ever wondered how faith can transform challenges into victories? Today, we explore together the transformative power of faith, the importance of prayer, the bridge between the impossible and the possible, and how humility, intercession, vision, and testimony can multiply faith in our lives. But the journey does not stop here. Faith is a living force that continues to grow and transform our reality. Now, I want to ask you a question. What was the most impactful moment for you today? Share your experience or opinion about the video in the comments below. And if you felt touched and inspired, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any of our transformative content. And remember, faith is a journey that begins with a step of trust and becomes a life of transformation. Don't miss the opportunity to continue growing and learning. Until the next video, where we'll dive even deeper into the power of faith. Stay tuned. Until then, take care of yourself and keep believing. With love.